Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Okay, I will try to make this as quick as possible. I have listed 10 final tips, and these, the tips, they are not exhaustive. I believe there are many more important tips, but I want to begin here by telling you that, in my opinion, the most important tip is that you have been preparing for this paper for the past 2 3 months, and that means you are not starting from scratch. You are not without anything. You are not going to the exam with nothing. You have something, but at the end of the day, it is about being calm, being able to use what you have learned and covered together with me in the class. Okay, so this is going to be a very quick one. I'm going to list, or rather discuss one by one, what we have in this only one slide that I have prepared for you. Number one, yep. Imagine that you are already working in the historic places, okay? Either as one of the, strategic persons inside the company, or you could be a consultant. In the exam, it will mention and state what is your role uh, when you are given the task lah kan. But tomorrow, imagine it has been some time, perhaps you were on holiday, but tomorrow you will come back to office and you will be given task. All right. So the first tips is to be yourself. You have to imagine in real life scenario, in real life, what would you do if you are given that task? Right? You don't have to be someone else. I mean, like, imagine your boss comes to you and then say, "Oh, we have some problem here. Our risk management is not good. What do you think we should do?" So, given that's the situation, what do you think you should do? But remember, it must not be that random. You will have exhibits. You will have some information for you to use. But I think this is very important. Be yourself. Right? The second one is on the models and framework. There are many models, many framework. You can see here that I told you, in my opinion, you need to have these two things. You have to be selective, very selective, I wrote here, and opportunistic. What do I mean by that? I start with being selective because I told you by default, in my opinion, you don't want to use models unless it is, very clear that a model and a framework, let's say like BCG, cultural web, and so on, unless it is very clear that you can use it, right? That's why I use the word opportunistic there, right? This is an opportunity to help answer your question better because you have a model that can help you, right? Like Tara, for instance, when the question asks about risk response, this is not exactly the same like risk management, because in risk management, you can talk about many different things that you do to manage the risk, right? But risk response means that when you have a risk, what do you do specifically to that risk, right? Remember your mock and look at my feedback. I don't want to take too much time explaining on that. But again, if I may summarize, risk response means that, let's say you have risk A. Risk response means that you respond to that risk A. Do you accept? Do you avoid? Do you transfer? You are dealing with that particular risk. But risk management, you are also dealing with the risk, but you can do something else that will, let's say, reduce that risk, contoh, that will deal with that risk. But you are doing something else. Okay, let me give you an example. There is the risk that the supply of fish will take some time and the fish will become bad in its state and condition, right? So in this case, because its impact is too high, for instance, and the likelihood is too high, you avoid that risk. That means you don't accept that. Risk management, however, is something like you said, we will use a special delivery vehicles. This is risk management. You are doing something else to deal with the risk. But risk response is to respond to the risk specifically. This risk, what do you do with it? That particular risk. Okay, but then again, that is about Tara. Be very selective. Not only Tara, all other models as well. Again, by default, in my opinion, be very careful when you read the question. If you think that it doesn't fit the model, then you don't use it. And you can be creative. You can use modern models. Like for external factors, you can use pastel together with Potter's hypothesis, Potter's diamond, and so on. Although actually each of the model has quite a specific use. in the exam, right? And then next, RPRT. Am I recording actually? Yep, sorry, just checking. RPRT, reading, planning, and reflection time. Again, I'm sure that some of you are still, I don't know, perhaps not comfortable with RPRT. You want to call it with a different name, that's up to you. But planning is a must. I told you the moment the invigilator said, candidates, you may now begin, do not start writing the answer. By answer, I mean the final answer. Can you write some parts of the, let's say point, draft? Of course, not only you can, you should do that. So do not misunderstand me. When I said do not write immediately, it means that do not rush into answering the question. You have to plan. By planning, it includes reading, and then planning also, and then reflection. And by reflection, it means that at least two things, guys. Number one, you have to really understand the question. I will explain more on that. Number two, you want to consider all the exhibits together with the precinct that we have read and discussed earlier. Okay, in other words, please do some planning. Read all the exhibits and the tasks. We will always begin with reading all the tasks first. All the tasks, not task one, only, but all tasks. It will be like 3 tasks like that. You can copy and paste in your answer space. And then after you read the task, knowing what, having some ideas. You don't have to be, you know, understanding everything from the first reading. Usually, I think it will take at least the second or third reading for you to understand fully. But that's why planning is important, because when you read once and you are planning, then later when you do the exhibit or when you read the task for the second time, you will understand it better, so you can adjust your plan. If it's a final answer already, it's difficult to change that. Although the good news is this is a CBE exam, so cutting and pasting is easier, right? But please, guys, RPRT, and some of your friends told me last time, uh, she took more than 1 hour to do that. Don't do that, please. I suggest what, half an hour and 45 minutes, like that. It doesn't have to be too detailed, but you have to plan, not only plan for your answer, which is RPRT, you need also to plan for a time. You have to limit the time that you use for RPRT. Okay, next, guys, this is very important. Again, the moment the invigilator said, candidate, you may now begin, you have to know that you are there to hunt for mark. You nak memburu markah. That's all what that you want to do. Okay, and this is very important now. So I told you, for every sub requirement, there will be marks allocated, and this is not hidden from you. So you are aiming for a passing mark, knowing that there will be some parts of the question which could be more difficult. Yeah, you are right. You can try to score more marks in certain parts of the task or the sub requirement. But remember this, this is not from me. This is from the expert tutor. The decreasing pattern is something very important to have in mind. What do I mean by that? If you have task 1, task 2, and task 3, let's say 33 marks, 33 marks, and 34 marks, for instance, yeah, for the first task, which is task 1, 33 marks, it's easier to get the first 10, 15 marks. And let's say you are writing and you are writing your point and you know how many marks you get already. You want to get the next 5 marks or the next 13 marks, kan? Out of 33, you already get 15. You wrote answer. You need to score 5 more or even 10 more. The later part of the mark will be more difficult to get. You get my point? What this means is that move on. In task 1, once you are satisfactorily answering, when you have, if you are satisfied already with the marks that you think you will get, then you have to move on. There will be, this is very important, there will be guaranteed, there will be some easy marks available for you. That's why never leave anything blank. By any means, you should attempt all questions. All questions. Again, yeah, remember, be practical, count, but don't take too much time, but still count your marks. Aim for, let's say, a comfortable pass. I don't know, 60, maybe, if not 70. And remember, for every sub requirement, the decreasing pattern means that you will get some marks in the beginning, and then it will get more difficult for you to get more marks in that same question. That's why you have to move on and get more marks from other questions. And then when you are done with all of them, you can go a second round and add more marks by adding more points lah. That's the only way that you can get marks. Again, guys, you will hunt for mark. There is nothing else. Do not do what that doesn't give you any mark. Do not do that. Like some theory, some very long introduction. The examiners are not interested in your showing off how much you have learned the theory in the class. No, you have to apply the knowledge that you have, right? I think there will be some parts on that later. Answer what they ask. I think this is going to be very, very helpful. Guys, answer what is asked. And this is actually, of course, related to your RPRT just now. You can only answer what is asked if you plan when you read the question, you read it carefully. This is part of your planning, and you keep double check. You keep double checking whether you are on the right track or not. Meaning, let's say you have planned, RP is done, 45 minutes, then you start answering your final answer kan. So what you will do is that while you are writing and typing your answer, sometimes new ideas come, but you will keep looking at the question. Am I on the right track? Am I actually answering what is being asked? Because sometimes you can become too, excited with some ideas, forgetting that your ideas is not related to what the question is asking. Right, that's why I think this what do we call this? The approach here I think is very important. Subject, verb, and object. This may not apply to all questions, but let me give you one example from the more. When you are collecting the data from the customer to improve, which is the verb, the performance of the company. Many of you did this wrongly when they talk about, let's say, data analytics. So data analytics is not the subject. We are not talking about how data analytics can help improve performance. We are talking about collecting the data from customer. So let's say you talk about collecting data from the supplier. Of course, does that have any benefit to the company? Can it improve the performance? It can, but we are not talking about collecting data from supplier. We are talking about collecting data from the customer. Do you get my point? Let me give you one more example. The question in the mock, it asks you about how collecting data from customer can help improve performance. Some of us wrote a very good answer, in my opinion, or a very good point, very logical, when it says technology can help collect the data. When you use technology, you can use mobile app, blah, 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 because it is convenient and so on. Do you see how this is going? It is out of topic. We are not asking about how technology can help collect the data. Can you see it is different already. The subject is technology, verb is help, object what? Collection of data. Now, the subject becomes the object. How technology help collect the data? No. The question does not ask how technology benefits the activity of collecting the data. The question asks you collecting data itself. That is the subject. That is the thing. How this collecting the data from customer improve the performance? Do you guys get what I mean or not? So be careful with exactly what the question asks, right? So I think I have to mention this. If you talk about external factors, definitely you have to talk about implication and impact it has to the company. You can use the word like opportunity, threat, even weakness and strength. But remember that you talk about strength and weakness as a result, as an implication from the opportunity and threat, because external factors, guys. And many of you would jump to implication. So I told you already in the class, be careful. I wanted to talk about recommendation. Of course, when something happened, you have to react to that something, betul tak? But before you react, talk about the impact first. When it is raining, do not say that you need an umbrella. That's correct. But when it is raining, talk first about how you are going to become wet, how you are going to become cold due to the cold raining and so on. Faham tak, guys? Then only you talk about taking raincoat, umbrella. That is recommendation. So you have to differentiate between the two. Okay, and then a quick one, professional skills. Again, there will be 20 marks for professional skills. This is why I told you do not leave any question blank. The moment you do that, 0 marks, definitely. There will be 5 professional skills, Each will allocate 4 marks for you. Format. Don't forget the format, report, letter, whatever. The format must be there, not only for communication, for all professional skills, 5 of them. When the question asks for a format, use the right format. Tone means it has to be professional, it has to be formal. If you talk to the board, for instance, and so on, the audience. And then slides also. Remember, in the slide, it must not be too long. It is recommended, I believe, to be in point form. But when you explain what you have on the slide, then make sure it follows the sequence that you have on the slide. Okay, time management. This one also, again, this is not something small. This is very important. That's why I told you during RPRT, this is one of the things that you should do. If the question gives you 10 marks, then you should finish writing that in 80 minutes. Writing the final answer, because during RPRT you already plan for the answer draft, for the draft. That's why it should help you. 80 minutes is very short, I think, for a 10-mark question. But for a 10-mark question, again, if you relate with the passing mark, I think I'm going to aim for what? 7, 6 minimum. 7 out of 10 is already good. So that sounds more doable to me. Okay, structure, right? Best possible, if you can come up with a heading, please write some heading, because it has many benefits, like telling yourself and the examiner that these are different points. Number two, do not mix up between one point and the other, because once you have heading and one paragraph, then that one paragraph is only for one point. You don't mix things up, guys. Okay, and then, okay, I'm almost done here. Reasoning. Perhaps I'm going to slow down here and then I'm going to end. Reasoning is about using the exhibits and also the present, whatever that you have, the materials that you have, at least from 3 things, guys, from 3 things. Number one, your present, which is going to be minimum by right, the present. Number two, exhibits, which will be the majority, the most important reference for you during the exam time. The third one is your theory that we learn from the textbook, from the classes exercise, from any newspaper or other materials or references that you read. From all these materials, you want to use them, put them together, and you want to arrange them to come up with something that you have not yet known. What do I mean? This is what we mean by reasoning. Anyway, for instance, you know that I told you about this. Can you know that the company is recording in the financial statement that they are having the minimum cash, they're struggling with liquidity, with cash, and at the same time, their overdraft has doubled or tripled. This is what you already have, guys. And then at the same time, when you look at other part of the financial statement, you look at the revenue, it has doubled, it has tripled, very abruptly, very quickly. So these are the things that you know. So when you put this together, you are thinking, okay, this is reasoning. Oh, how come the company has very little cash now and struggling for cash? And how come at the same time they are making a lot of sales? Oh, it is over trading. So over trading is the result of reasoning. We call it buah fikiran, right? It's the fruits of your thought. So likewise, from the exhibits, mainly from the precinct, from your knowledge of the SBL syllabus, you put them together. Okay, you come up with something new. You know that the government, for instance, has made it compulsory for FM to pay 5% employee benefit, kan? Okay, I think, okay, this is what is being done by the government, by the law. Okay, and then FM, the company, must obey. So putting this together, okay, when they must obey, that means there will be extra cost. So the extra cost means there will be higher salary cost. And then not only the employee will also have to pay. Some part of their salary will be cut. Okay, if you are the employee, what you will do? Okay, when your salary is lower, that means that could affect your lifestyle, right? So they could demand for higher salary to, you guys get my point. This is the reasoning. So your answer is that one of the impacts of the company is that the employee would demand to the company for a higher salary. That further increases the employee cost to the company. So this is what I mean by reasoning. This is exactly what you are going to do in the exam. Read carefully, put them together, and make them help you to come up with a conclusion. And that conclusion must be elaborated towards the task required. If the task asks about implication, then you talk about implication. If the task ask about effectiveness, then you talk about effectiveness. Now, I'm thinking about questions that has the word to what extent. right? One of your friends asked me about that, but I'm not going to explain about it here. I'm going to explain in the WhatsApp group. That is another part where it is very important to understand what do you mean by to what extent, sejauh mana, how far, right? Lastly, I'm going to end with this. If you notice, this is the same point like the first one, and I intentionally did this to tell you that at the end of the day, be yourself. This is just your final call. This is your final chance. It is the exam day. Just do your best. Be yourself. And like I told you, imagine you are already there. Your boss, your leader, your superior is there asking you to do something. And just, if this is in real life, perhaps the difference is that you can ask for some help from others. Again, because you are alone in the exam hall. But what will you do logically? Okay, of course, you will not do something, very illogical, very I don't know, ineffective and so on. Okay. Wallahu alam. I pray, with the barakah of Ramadan, that all of you are given the strength and ease and convenience to answer the question and pass SBL with flying colors. Amin. Allahumma amin. My forgiveness for my shortcomings. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.